Hi you all, this is Connie with the Farmers Market. I'm also the Farm to School Coordinator for Frankfort Independent Schools, so you may have seen me talking about food there. But I am here today just to talk a little bit about how to use knives to chop up some of your vegetables. Maybe that came from the store or came from the farmer's market. So just before you use a knife, a few things to think about is I really encourage parents to let their kids start using knives early in a supervised situation. 2, 3, 4-year-olds are very capable of chopping things as long as you're there to help them out. So do what you feel comfortable with, but our kids often surprise us by what they're able to do when we give them the chance. But when you're gonna use a knife, make sure that you have a little space, a little elbow room around you. When you pick it up, if you're gonna carry it somewhere, make sure you're carrying it pointing down. If you're not using it, just set it down. Knives are for cutting, we don't need to carry them around. And then depending on what you're gonna cut, I have brought a few things here that we'll go through. We will start with this sweet potato. This is a sweet potato that I grew on my farm last year. You can see lots of my sweet potatoes are beautiful. The ones I have left at this time of year are what I call culls. They had a little bit of damage, but there's still lots of good food here. And using our knife is a good way to get this ready for cutting. So you have your knife. This is a chef's knife. I like to use this for bigger things. And I'm gonna wanna have my hands like a little bit of a claw. I don't want my fingers underneath here. I want to have my hands in a little claw pulled away. And then I'll just put my knife here, and I can always, if I have something hard to push like this, I can kind of do a little chop down like this. This first cut on something that's big might be something, if you have little hands, that you want to ask an adult to help you with. But then, as you get it smaller, I'm going to do this again. I have my claw, keeping my fingers away from the knife. Chop down again. Again, that chop was a little hard. Sweet potatoes are a little bit hard to use. My claw, again, keeping my fingers away. But if I wanted to dice this up, if an adult could kind of get it to this point for me, then I'd set my knife down. Depending on what you have at your house, this is just a little knife. This is now thin enough that it's much easier for someone whose hands might be smaller to chop this. And with this, I would take my knife, I'd put the point on the cutting board and just keep it there. And I'd kind of like just go like this. A little bit, sometimes people call this like a choo-choo chain or like a vacuum cleaner going back and forth, keeping my fingers away from it, just going and chopping. And this is something that's perfect for little hands to do. When you get it small like this, you can even use a butter knife and cut your pieces into even little bit smaller bits. They also sell some kids' plastic knives that, are not, it's a little sharp, but it's not gonna slice anyone. They're a little harder to cut with, but you can see, it still works pretty well. And again, I'm keeping the tip of the knife down, just chopping like this. So lots of different knife options. And one thing to keep in mind is even something that's hard to cut like a sweet potato, if you have an adult to kind of help you get it ready, then there is lots of chopping that even little ones can help you with. And just one of the joys of being in the kitchen is having a kid there to help you with. So I'm gonna set this aside. This will go home and be part of my dinner tonight. Stick with orange things. Everyone probably recognizes this. This is a carrot. You can always peel it first if you want to. Often, if I know where my carrot came from, I'll just wash it and I'll go ahead and chop it up without peeling it. Something I didn't say, but I did with the sweet potato is when you're cutting things and they're rolly, sometimes it's a little hard. So one little trick of chopping, I often cut off my end of my carrot, is you can hold the carrot like this. I kind of have this arch going over it. I'm keeping my fingers away from the knife. I can cut down through the middle And I took this round thing and I turned it into something that has two flat surfaces. And then I put those flat surfaces down and all of a sudden it's much more stable. And so then again, you can take whatever kind of knife you're using and just chop along, a little bit like a choo-choo train. And as I get closer, you see this finger's getting a little close. I want to keep it as a claw, keep squeezing it back as I go. And this little kid's knife is doing a great job with that. A little paring knife like this also does a good job. Here, I kind of use more of a slicing motion. Even a butter knife doesn't make quite as clean of a cut. But like here, this is taking more force. It might be hard for a little arm to kind of force this knife through, but this is something easy that even little hands can do. So, chopping up a carrot, and then sometimes this is one of the joys of this time of year. We have lots of strawberries ready at market. And so sometimes with soft fruits, you don't want to squish them. And so this knife, you can see it has a little serrated edge, it's bumpy. And here I'm going to use a sawing motion and just saw off the top of it. Again, this is small, but I'm keeping my fingers away from it. And here I might just want to slice it in half, again with a little bit of a sawing motion. You're going to use that same kind of technique with tomatoes, other soft things. So over. I have some asparagus here, another one of the joys of spring. Asparagus often use steam, but again, this is something that I would take one of my kind of chopping knives, and if you wanted it in smaller bits, you could cut it like this. And asparagus is a nice, easy one for kids to cut up. You can eat, if you've never tried it raw, it's great raw. It's also great steamed or roasted in the oven. You could even roast sweet potatoes and then throw asparagus in at the last minute and have brilliant orange and green together. And then something that's sometimes a little bit harder, we have a big leaf of kale here. This is something that is fun to just shred up. You don't even need a knife for it. You can just shred it up kind of like this and have all sorts of little nice bits. One thing I like to do with kale is if I'm making pasta, I will shred kale up like this, put it in the colander before I drain the pasta over it, and then just toss it in with the pasta. And it's already cooked enough, and you just add a little bit of green to your meal. But this is also fun to cut with a knife. And one of my little tricks, sometimes you might want to cut the stem out. I often leave it in. One of my little tricks is I like to roll the kale up a little bit. So I have a bit of a sausage. And then again, you can just take your knife and chop it up like this. And this is a really fun one. And also just fun to shred with your hands. You can then go the other way again if you want to. So a little bit of kale chopping. You would do the same thing with the Swiss chard. And then last thing, I think I'm going to leave all my greens on here and pull up another cutting board. Last little technique that is fun and will make you look like you're in a chef's show is, here we have some mint. And so say I was going to be making a salad dressing and I was wanting to make a nice honey mint vinaigrette. First, I would strip off the mint leaves. I wasn't stripping too much because some of these at the bottom has been sitting on my counter for a few days. But if you start from the top and slide your fingers down, you can kind of strip the mint leaves off. So get myself a nice little pile of stripped mint leaves. And when you're working with herbs, you should always take a minute to smell it because it always smells so good. This is mint that's growing right outside of my barn. So stripping off these leaves. Sometimes the very top, you can just kind of pinch the whole little top off. But then when I have a nice little pile of leaves, this is a fun one to again keep my knife, the tip right here, still making sure that no one's too close around me. Something I haven't said is when you have the knife in your hand and you're starting to chop, whenever you're cutting, your eyes should be on what you're doing. The time that you're likely to make a mistake is if you get distracted and if someone comes into the room. If you get distracted, you should make sure to put your knife down before you start talking or anything else. I think some of us grown-ups are more likely to nick our fingers than kids are, because sometimes we're trying to do too many things at the same time. So when you're chopping, your eyes should be on what you're doing. And then you can just kind of chop like this. But then as you get it chopped up, you can even turn your cutting board, and you can put this hand on top, and you can kind of just kind of do free chopping. And this is safe because your hand's all up here above the cutting surface. You can rotate again. And I'm just mincing this up and making it really, really small. So it's the perfect size to put into my salad dressing. So lots of different fun chopping tasks that kids can do to help prepare meals to share with your family. So hopefully that gave you some ideas. Happy cooking and enjoy your summer.